First of all, I'm going to be very blunt. I disagree with President Museveni 100%. And
Why?
I think he is playing very, very dangerous politics. This country is called Uganda. Every Ugandan has a right to settle in any part of Uganda, and it's in the constitution.
Article 29. E.
It doesn't matter whether I was born in Kigezi, I can go and live in Karamoja. And that must be defended, and that's what creates this country called Uganda. So that's point number one. Point number two, and I have gone to Parong and to Gulu and sat with General Saleh. I think the one person who has studied this issue of Balaalo comprehensively, more than anybody else, is General Salim Saleh. And he has given me voluminous information about this subject. The following things can be noted. One, the Balaalo who have gone to northern Uganda, specifically Acholi region, went there, met community leaders, individual families and clans, and bought land legally or rented that land legally. I do not know of a single landowner, whether it's a family, a clan, or an individual, who has complained that the people occupying his land robbed it from them. I've seen some people here in Buganda who claim land grabbing. There is no claim of land grabbing in northern Uganda. To even be much more concerned about the dangers Museveni is doing, and this is anti-Museveni, by the way. So I'm speaking on behalf of Mr. Yoweri Museveni that I know, not this politician looking for cheap popularity. There are many white people who have farms in Acholi. Omona and Atigo can confirm that for me. No one is complaining against them. There are many Asians who have plantations there. No one is complaining about them. This is a very tribalistic, ethnicized argument. The Chief Justice and other politicians in northern Uganda who are orchestrating this, in their very narrow minds, don't understand that they are opening a Pandora's box, because the Chief Justice himself, who is my grandson, by the way, first of all, I should tell you, like me, I have an ancestry in his village and the village of the Chief Justice, Owinyidolo. I can recite here my grandparents. If I finish 5, 6, immediately they all become O. If you come to my compound at home, and have taken Minister Nobert Mao there, the late Ruby Okel, I took him there. I have kids there, my cousin's kids in our compound. One is called Ochaki, another one is called Oli. I have a cousin who does plumbing at the home, is called Ochaya. Don't you have those names, sir? So this claim to say that somehow the Balaalo and Acholi are different peoples is a fiction of, first hold on a second, is a fiction of the colonial state, which must be resisted. These Balaalo are going back home. All of us Ugandans belong to the same thing. We have same ancestry. You can go to among the Bahima communities in Nyabushos there. You will find my wife has brothers. If I picked any of her brothers and I took them on the street in Lango, in Lira or Gulu, she's a Mhima. But the Acholi there would immediately see those boys as their own. So these fictions that were created by colonialism, that they are Bantus, then they are Luos, I don't understand. The Milton Obote, with whom I did autobiographical interviews, let me also add this. He told me a story, you should read, because I published them in the Monitor. He said when Kabalega was captured, he was under the protection of his father. His father was the chief of Kabalega in Lango. So this, I hope Latigo, my grandson, and you, Omona, you are not involved in this kind of thing. To say that Ugandans who went through willing buyer, willing seller, acquired land in Acholi should be evicted, I find it an outrage. It's against the constitution of Uganda, it's against the politics of Yoweri Museveni, it's against the politics of the NRM, it's against the ideology of Pan-Africanism, it's against even the Ugandanness. And let me tell you another thing that makes me extremely upset with Museveni on this matter. There is for you to acquire land there, government put their procedures. You must go and sign with an LC1, LC3, you have to sign with the GISO and the RDC. What did you do? You have to get the documentation showing that you actually acquired land from legally and legitimately, those two things, from a clan or a family group. Once you have accumulated this pile of documents, you take them to Ministry of Agriculture. At the Ministry of Agriculture, the minister has to sign and approve that now you are a legitimate owner or leasee, they call him leasee of land. Once the minister has signed, you go to the department, something to do with the control of disease. They have to approve and give you a permit to move your cows. So there are government procedures that are elaborate and comprehensive, legal and legitimate, through which Balaalo have gone there. You have read there. In 2023, 2024, the president even said, okay, some people are complaining, neighbors, that your cows are going to, in Rutoro, called kuona. What do you call it in Acholi? There is a language, kuona is for my cows break into your garden and eat your crops. Okay. If neighboring people to the Balaalo are complaining, that's a legitimate complaint. The president said, okay, to avoid kuonesa, people's whatevers, you ensure that 90% of the Balaalo within 6 months complied with that directive. These people who are being evicted, they have already complied. The Balaalo have invested a lot of money in that area. So I am wondering, the president's conditions were met. Why is he shifting the goalposts? Please, can somebody explain to me? So people have been going through protracted legal processes, and we do not even have any landowner there who is complaining. So on whose behalf is the Chief Justice and other politicians? And they're trying to raise ethnic sentiments. Now, let me finish with my point. Each one of us seated here, Omona there, Ratigo here. My grandson, what's your name?
Kennedy.
Kennedy Okello. This is a twin. All of them have plots and own property in Buganda. I appeal to you, Baganda, you behave like these politicians from northern Uganda and ask all of us to be evicted from here. Why should Ugandans, Acholis, Batoro and Basamia, have a right to come to Buganda, buy land, build houses, set up farms, but Balaalo don't have that right in Acholi? Finally, me, I come from a kingdom called Toro. I think more than 50%. We have Bachiga, we have Akonjo, we have Bamba, we are living peacefully. There was a time some Batoro politicians were trying to say, Bachiga, don't come here, we don't want migrants. In Bunyoro, there was this problem of Wafruki, saying Wafruki should not stay here. And Museveni was playing that kind of ethnic politics, which he accused Obote of playing, which Obote never did, by the way. Obote was the most nationalistic of whatever. It is Museveni who is ethnicizing these things. Has Bunyoro fallen apart because Bachiga migrated there? Bachiga are Ugandans, they should be free to move and settle in every place. We have a Ugandan born son of Professor Mahabun Mamdani, Zohran Kwame Mamdani. He has just been elected as a Democratic candidate for mayor of New York. Obama, I think, was born in Hawaii, but he became a senator for Chicago. For Illinois, the state of Illinois, where the state of Chicago is. I think this lady was born in, I can't remember where, Hillary Clinton, but she became mayor, rather senator for New York. I want to go, in fact, I'm going to run in Acholi as a candidate for parliament. Okay. Because every Ugandan should be free to run wherever they are. But this thing of saying that Balaalo, a certain tribe, must be evicted, who have bought land legally and legitimately have negotiated and fulfilled all legal obligations. This is a travesty of every single thing Museveni fought for in this country. I'm really, really, really disappointed. Mr. Museveni, you know today, if you did the right thing, I'll defend you with my life. On this one, you are so wrong, and I'm embarrassed on your behalf.
Thank you. As the person in charge of this docket, where is the impasse between the region and the people that are coming? Professor has talked about assimilation. Andrew is talking about the politics behind it. What is your take? Why is there an impasse in resolving this matter? And I think my other rejoinder to the question is, why did the verification process fail?
I want to very strongly reject the position and the narrative of Andrew Mwenda about this matter. First of all, let me tell you, people in northern Uganda are the most warm and welcoming, maybe in this entire country. Secondly, it is not a matter of Acholis or any tribe in North. In fact, it's not about Acholis at all. I think, and I am compelled to say you could, because you said General Sale gave you this information. In fact, I am compelled to think you are misrepresenting General Salim Saleh. I want to make this very clear. Timothy, this matter began when the president consulted, invited the leaders from northern Uganda who are around the Karamoja area, because that time there was escalation in cattle raids in Karamoja, and of course, as you know, there's a lot of disruption in the way of life of the people who are around Karamoja, and this meeting took place in Baralege. In that meeting, I remember the leaders complained to the president that, Your Excellency, we have noticed there are people who have kind of invaded our area, but the way they're living with the people is not good. They carry guns, they are violent, they are disrespectful, and they are arrogant. The president himself took trouble to investigate and find who these were. Please, nobody from northern Uganda, not in Lamu, not in Acholi, not in West Nile, even coined the word Balaalo. It was the president's word. Nobody called them such. They simply complain that there are some people and their cattle keepers who have invaded their area. And they are this that I've told you. And they carry guns. That was the beginning of the complaint of the people, the people's leaders in that area. The president took trouble to consult. He consulted, he invited some elders from Acholi. One of those is Muse Okwera, Peter Okwera, was I think in the CA or something like that.
It was in this the post
takeover
yes,
legislative arrangement.
Yeah.
That was the so Muse Okwera, Peter was there, and others. So later on the president invited people, including the Chief Justice, not as Chief Justice, but as an elder from Acholi and others. Say, let me listen to this. It was a long day in Entebbe. Timothy, there were gruesome testimonies from the communities from Acholi. Again, in that meeting, nobody there called anybody by name Balaalo or something. That was the president's own identification of that group. They only complain about people who have come to graze cattle and they're not living well with their communities. Some of them don't recognize boundaries with the neighbors. Others don't allow your cows to graze with them. If your cow crosses in their kraals, it is either castrated or even they confiscate, they take it away. And this was something not common in that community. And many other complaints which were there. And that time I remember there were even testimonies that say that if you complain, if you take this complaint to
when you come back late from work, shopping without a queue, order anything you want and dash away.
Order a Glovo and receive it 10 minutes.
In a state house, you are there. The whole day the president listened to the people there. And then later on the president also called another group who identified themselves as others who identified themselves that landowners. That's the first time I heard about landowners. They have never existed. I began hearing about association of landowners, or is it cattle farmers in northern Uganda. I'm a farmer there myself. We have never had such, but it emerged after that. The president took trouble to say, let me go and see myself. The president flew and went to Okidi in Guru. While he was there, I was there myself, Timothy. And this is why Professor says the Acholi people say deep-seated issues, and they say it is in there, that the problems are in my lungs, are in my heart. That's how they express themselves. In that meeting, Timothy, those who were grieved were identified and kept away from coming for the meeting where the president was. A number of leaders from that area were also kept away from that meeting. I was there myself. And then the then RDC in that place was the one who was used. It would identify who would speak where the president was. Many MPs were blocked away. They were not allowed to reach where the president was. This was an open meeting. I remember very well, I think when those who are coming from the side of Lamore, even Honorable Hilary Onek was not allowed to enter in that meeting. I found Honorable Lanya crying along the way when we are now going back. All those who were aggrieved in the community that we are complaining, we are not allowed to enter that meeting and speak to the president. I remember in that meeting, one migrant cattle keeper even threatened the president. When the president asked him, so why did you come here? That where I am, it is now small. That is small. But why don't you, if it is small, why don't you do more than farming so that your animal fit in there? Then he told the president in their local dialect that, okay, Mr. President, now you're chasing us from here, we shall meet in the voting. Meaning, if he chases him, he will not vote him. He told the president in public.
But it's the same thing that has been told to the president by honorable honorable MPs that are there.
Yeah, so I'm just telling you why the community complained. It was the president who invited the leaders, and the leaders told him, Mr. President, there's something we have seen. Yes, it's true the Karamjongs are raiding our animals. They are killing people. But there's again something we are seeing in our communities. So when the president did that, he did his own investigation. And having listened to both sides, the cattle keepers there, who sent their representatives, now this I'm including landowners. I'd never heard about them. By that time, they existed. But for sure, what I know, and they also know, they were mobilized by the cattle keepers as landowners. And actually, they are not necessarily landowners. They're actually agents, land
brokers.
Brokers, actually. Yeah. I think I should say so. Now, that's when the president, after some time, after consulting widely with these two groups, even invited, again, I think, the Chief Justice and the Minister of Justice. After widely consulting with both sides, he now issues the Executive Order number 3 of 2023, which included all those conditions. In fact, the position in that Executive Order was that everybody will leave. It even narrates so it's so detailed. Then when he issued that Executive Order, there were consultations. A number of people from the north there, including now the so-called landowners, cattle farmers in northern Uganda and so on. Now the president listened to them, said, okay, if that's the case, let's now give these guidelines. But those guidelines were not in the original, the real Executive Order number 3. So those were that one, if you have land, you must have fenced with the 3 strands of wire, that you must have water in your farm. Why? Because you should be keeping your livestock within a confined, controlled area, so that they don't go to your neighbors. So that's what happened. But when they began, because the order was to those who don't comply to that, later on the guidelines given, after consultation and complaint from other cattle keepers who were in the north, the president made those adjustments to keep watching and give those guidelines. Now, in late 2023, we had the outbreak of the foot and mouth disease. And this process was halted to avoid spreading animal disease, because quarantine was declared. Quarantine was declared in a number of districts around northern Uganda. So to avoid spreading cattle disease, and particularly that was foot and mouth disease, it was halted to allow government procure enough vaccines to vaccinate livestock against foot and mouth disease before this operation could continue. Now, that was now around February 2024 when that was done. Now, all that time, government put in effort to vaccinate livestock and then continue monitoring. Unfortunately, Timothy, surprisingly, more livestock against the order moved into northern Uganda. This time, actually even beyond Acholi you're talking about. So we are talking about northern Uganda. Northern Uganda is not only in Acholi. Northern Uganda includes Lango, Acholi, and West Nile. So more animals actually now, more livestock moved into these areas against the guidelines, and including even the executive order of the president. Now, later on, when the government vaccinated livestock all over the country with massive vaccination investment in animal vaccines, it was not found that there were no longer foot and mouth disease in northern Uganda, and quarantine were already lifted in a number of these areas. That's now when we had a meeting. But all this time we have been collecting data. Security was collecting data and seeing what was happening. All these vices, all this discomfort that were created in that area actually had escalated. You know, when you sit in Kampala and read reports written to you by others, sometimes you actually end up very, very wrong. And I'm very, very surprised. I'm very surprised. I think these days Andrew is very busy with so many things. I must, and I want to really, I want to plead with you. I think tone down on a number of things so that you are able to concentrate on factual issues like you do. I think you have been so busy. I must appreciate, Andrew, you have been so busy, and I forgive you. Why? Okay. Let me finish. Why? Because actually the narrative Andrew is giving is actually now the narrative that others are wanting, who want this thing to put this whole thing to look like. Let me say this, Andrew, as you cut me. One, this is not a tribal matter. It is an issue about a people who have just recovered from war. Timothy, these are fellows who have been in camps for over 20 years. When they are going back home, elders died in the camps, senior people died off, others migrated. When they are going back home, they couldn't even tell where is our land, where are our boundaries. Others don't even know they can't even appreciate that land is better used as a factor of production than as a commodity itself for trade. So it is not, let me finish this point. It is not about the tribal, it is about this behavior of people in northern Uganda. Person who called them Balaalo was the president in his description. Why is it that, by the way, Timothy, you forget, Balaalo, who we are calling Balaalo, we are not only being evicted from northern Uganda, they were once evicted from Bulisa. Why didn't you bring this narrative that it was tribal that time? So this is not a tribal matter. It is about, government has a responsibility of protecting the weak. If some people who are just recovering from war are complaining about something, it is a responsibility of government to protect them as well.
Thank you.